Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Danielle and I'm the owner of Damn Fancy Creations and the Drunk Flamingo Glitter. Today we are going to be using another tumbler charm from CamiPaige Boutique. If y'all can't tell, I obviously love these tumbler charms. They make adding 3D elements to your tumbler so easy. Now, Brooke and I try to collab a lot when she's doing tumbler charms and I'm doing vinyl or decals, and we try to coordinate some items together. So you can see that she created this Matchbox tumbler charm, and then I created vinyl and decals to go with it. So you can purchase stuff from my shop, purchase stuff from her shop, and they all go together to create a beautiful tumbler. Everything you see here will be covered in today's tutorial, but if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask and I will always try to come back and answer them as soon as I can. Before we jump into this tutorial, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on upcoming tutorials. I also want to let you know that there is a supply list in the description as well as discount codes from my favorite suppliers. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get started on this tutorial and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright guys, so the first thing that we're going to do is create our Matchbox. This is the tumbler charm from CamiPaige Boutique. I went ahead and spray painted it white. Y'all could see the backside was a gray color. That's just the color of the filament. But I always spray paint my tumbler charms with a white primer and then paint them the colors that I want the tumbler charm to be. This is also the vinyl pattern we're going to be using. I created two patterns to go with the matchboxes. We have this kind of muted Western cowgirl option, and then I also created a kind of like a Ed Hardy style tiger pattern. And I am also filming this while I'm doing a live, so if you guys recognize this, y'all may have caught the live that I did. And I just try to turn my lives into tutorials for those of you that may have missed the live. Here's the tiger pattern that I had. And I sent this one to Brooke to use, so I decided to use the cowgirl one just to see different options. So there are regular decals, and then these little square decals, they actually go on the Matchbox. So I designed the size to fit the Matchbox with a little bit of wiggle room kind of. So if you wanted to glitter or add a border around them, you could. So to decorate the Matchbox, I'm going to be using Miss Lillian's No Wax Chalk Paint. I also got this from CamiPaige Boutique. These are my first wax paints that I have from Miss Lillian's, and I am obsessed with them. I love them so much. I've noticed that it really only takes 2 light coats to cover things. Here I'm just clearly showing off the other tumbler charms. This little Cupid I used for a Valentine tumbler that I just released this tutorial last week. I will link it now if y'all want to check that out. I really love how that little Cupid turned out. And all these other lovely tumblers. So I was also trying to decide what glitter I wanted to use with this tumbler. Sometimes I can't decide what glitter I want to use. And this is my little hippo that I painted back in like November. And I never put him on a tumbler. Y'all, this winter was crazy. With me being sick for almost half the month of December, it just really threw me off. So I didn't get a lot of stuff finished that I wanted to. So I opted to use this mint green Miss Lillian's paint. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I will link it in the description. But I like it because it goes with the decal that I was going to use, and it also is a little bit different from the pink that's in the vinyl, so the Matchbox is going to stand out a little bit. And I am just taking very light coats, and I'm just going to paint the Matchbox with a paintbrush. And I'm just going to do very light coats. But see, I was like in awe after the first couple of strokes that I did. I believe that this was the first time that I had used Miss Lillian's wax paint. And I was super impressed with the coverage that I got. And this is another reason why I also paint my objects with a white primer, because it just helps get better coverage with whatever paint you're actually going to paint it. So if I had just left this gray, then I would probably need more coats. And I'm just carefully getting the edges, trying not to paint the matchsticks. So even after one coat, I had really good coverage, but I decided to do a second coat just to make sure that I got all the little pieces or sections covered, even coverage. And I'm just using a really small paintbrush to go in between the matchsticks. And they're my ferocious dogs that weigh a whopping 20 pounds. So I'm just using my heat gun on the lowest setting just to dry this quicker so I can go ahead and do my second coat. I have a heat gun with an adjustable dial, so I just turn it all the way low. If you have it on a high heat setting, that could burn the paint, make it bubble. We don't want that. So we're just doing a second coat really quick, and then we're going to switch colors. And so our second coat is done now. And I'm just going to clean my brush a little bit with some alcohol. So for the background of the matches, I decided to use glitter. So we're going to mix a little bit of glitter in with our UV resin. And we're just doing a little bit. We don't want a ton. If you're using glitter and UV resin, you want to make sure that the glitter you're using is transparent, translucent. That way the UV light is able to penetrate the resin and glitter and cure everything properly. If you use an opaque glitter and you use a lot of it, then that UV resin is not going to be able to penetrate all the layers and cure that UV resin, and you're just going to be left with a sticky, tacky mess. So I am just applying a very thin layer kind of behind the matches and then in between the match sticks. And I'm just using my silicone tools to work with the UV resin. That way I can cure that with my UV light and the UV resin will pop right off. Instead of with a regular paintbrush, you know, it's really hard to get resins off of the paintbrush bristles. You can also use a toothpick or something like that, especially for the little tiny spots. And I'm really just getting a little bit of the UV resin on my brush, and then I am just letting it drip into those little cavities. And the little tiny ones, y'all can see I got like a little toothpick. And then I just kind of let it spread out. And when you're working with UV resin, you want to make sure that you are not by a window, that your UV light is not close to it, because it will start to cure before you want it to. So I just made sure everything was touching the edges and smooth. And I let everything kind of spread out a little bit, and then I grabbed my UV light and cured this. I also cured the little container because I like to pop out the resin if I can and reuse it. So now that that UV resin is cured, we are going to finish painting everything. So I'm going to use this light pink for the top part of the Matchbox. I thought that both of these colors kind of went well with the vinyl. And again, we're just going to do light coats. I know sometimes it can be hard to do light coats because you just want to get that good coverage, but I promise you, the lighter the coat that you do, the quicker that it dries. And then you can do your second coat really quick. So again, we're just drying it with my heat gun on the lowest setting. Now we're doing our second coat. So now I'm done with these paints. I'm going ahead and putting them up so I don't knock them over. And now we're going to do the little details. So I'm going to do the border of the Matchbox a different color. We're going to do a darker pink. Just so it contrasts a little bit with the pink that is on the Matchbox and the vinyl. And I'm just getting a flat brush with just a little bit of paint on there, and I'm just kind of dragging it across the top edge. So I was pretty happy with this color. I liked that it was a little bit darker than the other pinks that I was using. And we're just doing our second coat. I just did a second coat for everything just to make sure. Sometimes when it is when the paint is wet, it can look like it has good coverage, but when it dries, you may be able to see the underneath colors, or maybe the paint looks a little bit thinner once everything is dry. So next, I knew that I was going to mix up some, like a custom darker pink for the actual matches. So I was just going through all of the paint colors that I had. And then we're also going to paint the sticks. So for the actual matches, I wanted a little bit of a kind of like a mauve-y pink, because that was the color that I made for the matches on my vinyl. I made the matches kind of like a purpley pink, so I wanted to match that color as close as I could. So I'm honestly not even sure what colors I used for this. I think it may have been muted plum, pop of color, blush, pop of color, the light pink, Miss Lillian's, and then I have this kind of like burgundy red, or like a wine red, just to kind of get the color that I wanted. I have a lot of different paint colors, but sometimes I just need to custom mix just a little bit of one color just to get exactly what I need. So now that I have my color mixed up, I'm just going to go in and paint everything. Well, I think I'm actually mixing the color for my matchsticks right now. I just wanted a very light color. So I think I just used terracotta pop of color and just a white acrylic. Just something to get a really light brown. So I'm going in with a very small square brush first. And even though this brush is super tiny, I still got paint on the resin. So I did go back and just clean up that resin with a Q-tip and some alcohol after the paint was dry. Whoops. So now that the matchsticks are painted, we're going to go in with the paint and do the matchstick top part. I don't know. I don't know what that part is called on matches. So we're just getting a little bit of paint, and I have like a really small kind of round brush, so it forms to the rounded matchstick part, and I'm just going from the bottom part first, and then I'm going to turn the matchbox around and get the top part. And this is why I have so many paintbrushes, because you never know when you're going to need a certain size or shape. So I'm pretty happy with these colors. I like the pink and mint. I think it turned out super cute, and I think that the colors went perfect with the vinyl and decals that I'm going to be using. So I was just showing my live audience what it looked like. And once your Matchbox is dry, we are going to add the little decal. Obviously, you can paint it if you want to, add your own little design on there, but these decals I have on my site, thedrunkflamingo.com, for those of you that just want something quick and easy. So I was just kind of holding my decal up to see where I needed to place it. And then we're just going to stick it down. And I love this so much. I think it's so cute. And I had like something up underneath my decal. I don't know what it was. So I had to peel it back a little bit and then smooth it back down. But I think it turned out so cute. I was really happy with this little Matchbox. So now that we have our Matchbox done, I'm going to start on our actual tumbler. And I'm going to switch viewpoints because for whatever reason, my phone stopped recording. So I had to go grab a clip from the live that I did. So here is the live that was recorded. So the viewpoint is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to show you guys how I make my template for my diamond that I put on there. So this is just a regular sheet of paper that we are going to fold into a square shape. So we just folded the corner over, we're cutting off the excess. So now we have a square shape or also a diamond. So I'm going to put this on my tumbler, wrap it around. This is a little bit too big for what I want. So I was trying to decide how large I wanted it. So I just went to my paper cutter and trimmed off. I think I trimmed a total of 2 inches off of the square to make it a little bit smaller. And your size may be different from mine. I did not want my diamond touching in the back. I wanted there to be a little bit of space so that I could add a smaller little diamond on top of it and still have glitter around both parts. So now that I have my template the size that I want, we are going to cut this template out in vinyl. So if you are cutting a diamond shape, make sure that you cut your vinyl out in a diamond shape. If you cut it out as a square, then the images on your vinyl are not going to be facing the way that you want them to. So I am placing my shape down on my vinyl as a diamond, not a square. And I'm going to put a dot at every corner. So now that I have my dots, I'm just going to connect them with a ruler. And this is going to be my little diamond template. So now we're just going to take some scissors and cut this out. And obviously, if y'all want to save these templates, you can save them in a bag. Like these are all 20-ounce templates. These are all 30-ounce templates. I typically just remake a template every time because I show y'all how to make them. So now that we have our shape cut out in vinyl, I am just matching up the top and the bottom little points so I know that they are straight. And then I'm turning it to the back to make sure that the 2 points in the back are even. And once I know that they're straight, we're just going to smooth this on. Since this is a diamond shape, it's pretty easy to get straight on your tumbler just because the points are going to match up. If this were a straight edge, I would definitely draw a line down the tumbler with my CamiPaige Boutique cup cradle, which I do in just a second that I will show you guys. So I want another little diamond shape on the front of my tumbler where the decal is going to go. I'm just going to cut this out of white vinyl. And I'm just going to take the same square that I made earlier and I'm going to cut that down also. And I am also matching it up to the decal that I'm going to place in that little white diamond. I don't want to cut it too small and have the decal not fit properly on there, but I also don't want to cut it too large so that there's a lot of extra space. So there is my little white square that I cut. I'm just making sure that I'm going to be drawing my diamond on the correct side. I don't want to be drawing on the vinyl, I just want to be drawing my template on the backing. Again, I'm just marking my points. Then I'm going to connect the points and then cut this out. And these don't have to be perfect. Don't stress about getting them perfect. I am going to pinstripe these. So pinstripes can disguise like wavy lines or little flaws. So I am trimming the backing off of this to act as a hinge because I do want to make sure that this diamond is as centered in the back as I can get it. And I was kind of struggling with like eyeballing it. So what I did is took my cup cradle and I used it to draw a straight line right down the center. I did measure it. This is probably one of the rare times that y'all will see me break out a ruler to actually measure something. So I just put a dot in the center between those 2 vinyl points, and then I drew a straight line so that when I center my diamond on the back, the 2 points are going to be correct, if that makes sense. Sometimes I can't explain things as well as like I think them in my head, but you can see like the top and bottom diamond point are matching up to that line that I drew. And because I don't want that Sharpie to show through the white, I just grabbed some alcohol and erased that Sharpie line now that I knew everything was even. So now I'm just removing that backing. And now our diamond is centered on our tumbler. And then I'm going to grab my decal and we're going to place that on the white diamond on the back side. That turned out super cute. I know some of this stuff y'all can't see because this was only for the live, but y'all can understand what I'm trying to say, I hope. So now that we have our vinyl on, we are going to paint our tumbler and then we are going to glitter it. And I'm using the same pink that we used earlier for the Matchbox. And typically, yes, I would spray paint my tumbler with a flat white paint, but sometimes I like to test things out just so I know how to answer them for you guys. So for this one, for example, like how many coats of paint do you have to do to get full coverage on a stainless tumbler? So for this particular tumbler, I did 2 coats of the Miss Lillian's, and then I mixed a little bit of this paint in with glitter glue and did a 3rd coat, which also acted as my adhesive. If I had base painted this white, I probably would have only needed 2 coats, like 2 total, 1 base and then 1 acting as an adhesive. And I am taping off my edges. And if you want to tape off your vinyl in your decal, you definitely can. I just typically don't tape off my vinyl that I have on my tumblers. I just am careful when I'm applying my paint. And when I say 2 full coats, this is what I mean. Like, my coats are very, very thin because I want them to dry quickly so that I can move on to my next coat as soon as I can. So we're doing both the top and the bottom. I just did these the same colors. Sometimes I like to do ombres or crazy stuff like that, but I just decided to keep it simple and do the same pink color on the top and the bottom. I'm going to use the same glitter on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to let this coat dry. I do use my heat gun to kind of speed up the drying process on a low setting. And now I'm going to mix a little bit of this Miss Lillian's paint in with Artistry's glitter glue. Glitter glue is pretty much all I use to apply my glitter. I used to use spray adhesive constantly, but I do get a really good coverage with the glitter glue and I don't have to go outside for it. So that is a win in my book. And there's our daily train, y'all. I know you just love it so much. So we are just going to go in and do a little bit more of a thicker coat than the first 2 that we did. We do want to make sure that everything is covered nicely with the glitter glue so that we get good coverage with our glitter. And almost every time I apply glitter, I will use my tea strainer, unless obviously it's a chunky glitter. But with my tea strainer, I just get, I don't know, a good even glitter application if I don't want it super thick. But this particular tea strainer I got from Walmart years and years ago. It has epoxy all over it. They do not have it anymore. And you know, I forgot that I said that I used the same glitter on the top and bottom, but I remembered that I did use white linen. So this is my first color that I'm using. It's Pinka Colada. And then we're going to go in with white linen, which after epoxy, you couldn't really tell that much of a difference. It is a super subtle ombre. But white linen is a creamy white that I love so much. It's one of my favorite colors. We're just kind of ombreing that creamy white into the pink. So it's not really very noticeable because it is also a translucent glitter, but it still looks pretty. And now that the top part is done, we're going to go in and do the same thing to the bottom half. So we are pouring our Pinka Colada back into our tea strainer, getting that ready to go. Y'all will notice that I try to do that every time. Go ahead and get my glitter ready so that after we apply the adhesive, we are ready to just apply that glitter so the adhesive doesn't start to dry when we're trying to get that ready. So we're just using the same mixture that we used for the top half, a little bit of glitter glue mixed in with the pink Miss Lillian's paint. And we're going to apply it the same way. We're going to sprinkle the pink glitter on around the vinyl, kind of ombreing down or cascading down the cup. And then we're going to pour the white linen from the other direction. So from the top of the cup down to the center, or the bottom of the cup towards the center, I guess. And once we get this glitter on, we're going to let it dry, and then I will spray seal this with Rust-Oleum 2 times. That's typically my go-to. Sometimes I use quick seal. If I have vinyl, I will typically use a liquid sealer, but for this one I did use the spray sealer. I just do very, very light coats so that it does not react with the vinyl and cause it to curl or anything weird like that. So if you are using a spray sealer versus a liquid, you do kind of have to be mindful of what sealer you used. And then I'm going to epoxy it 2 times, and then I always will use the edging tool from CamiPaige Boutique to rim my tumblers. This is not the same tumbler. This is just an example. Sometimes I don't film myself every time that I use the edging tool, but this just gives you guys an idea. I just heat up the top rim and the bottom rim of my tumbler with hot water. Then I dry it off, and then I take that edging tool around the edge of my tumbler. And this is how I get nice, smooth rims every time. If you have a little bit of spray paint residue, you can clean that up with some acetone, and it looks perfect. So now that we have our edges cleaned up and we have sanded any little bumps or glitter grains that we may feel, we are going to pinstripe our tumbler. I am using I just call this like a champagne, it may be rose gold. It's a rosy gold champagne glitter vinyl. I get this from my local vinyl supplier, which is JSI Signs, but it's now called Perfect Press HTV. They are in Norcross, Georgia. So if any of you guys are local to Georgia, go check them out. I have been shopping with them since I think 2015, maybe. I think it was 2015. Their shop has changed a lot. It has expanded. They have loads of HTV if y'all are into HTV. They also have a large selection of adhesive vinyl, which is typically what I go and get. I will buy basic colors like white, black, gold, maybe holographic, in like 15-foot rolls, and they have really good prices. And I just decided to keep this all within the same color scheme. Sometimes I do contrasting colors, but this one, I just really liked the vibe of this tumbler with the muted pinks and mint greens. So I just kept that with the pinstripes. I thought that the chrome gold would be a little bit too shiny for this tumbler, so I just went with this one. And I'm just kind of testing things out, like how is it going to look once I put the Matchbox on there. So I just use E6000 to attach my charms, and you just need a little bit because this is really just holding the charm on until we can get epoxy on it. So I just put a little bit of the E6000 on. I like to let my E6000 kind of set up a little bit if I can and get tacky. But we are just going to place this tumbler charm on our cup. I do wish that I would have not put a decal on this and then added the tumbler charm to the opposite side so that you could see the vinyl a little bit better, but it is what it is. And I will also say that I did not record this part, but I did go around the edges of the Matchbox with UV resin. That way, if there were any air bubbles or anything, they would not come out when we epoxy. So I go around all of the cracks and crevices with UV resin. That way the tumbler charm is sealed to the cup. We're not going to get air bubbles seeping out or any weird stuff like that. So I let my tumbler charm, the E6000, dry overnight just to make sure that everything is completely dry, and then I will epoxy. This one was pretty easy to epoxy because it's just a square, just epoxy like normal. I like to use a gloved finger just to get rid of any of the epoxy pools. These are the finished pictures of it. You guys can see that I did add a little bit of distressing to the Matchbox, which I love. That was not intentional. I sanded the Matchbox a little bit too hard and removed some of the paint, so I kind of had to get creative on how to cover it up, but I ended up liking it a lot. So there's always a way to fix things, y'all. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If y'all got this tumbler charm from Brooke and try this tutorial, please post it in my groups. I love to see what you guys come up with and what sorts of things inspire you. Well, I will see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this tutorial or learned something new, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to catch the next video coming up that was picked just for you. As always, if you're looking for more tips, tricks, or tutorials, be sure to check out my Drunk Flamingo glitter group, my Damn Fancy tutorial group, or my Damn Fancy tribe. All are linked in the description. Thanks for watching.